Hi everyone, welcome to Shaky Sports Journeys. Another special guest with me today. I've ventured back into the world of football, and in particular a very, very big player from a big club. I'm joined by ex-Rangers, ex-Newcastle and ex-Danish international footballer Peter Lovenkrands. How are you, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good. Lockdown, not really much we can do at the moment. So there's not really much conversation to be had on. How are you? Yeah, I'm okay. Still in lockdown. That seems to be the way most conversations are going. But what I want to do today is take you on a wee bit of a journey. Get your mind working, take you back quite a few years. And I want to start. You were born 29th of January 1980 in lovely Denmark. Take me back to your childhood, your family background. Tell me a little bit about it growing up.
Yeah, so I'm from a place called Allerede in Denmark. It's like 20 minutes outside of Copenhagen. It's a wee village who's now actually grown more and more. Every time I come back, it looks different. You know, it's getting bigger and bigger. You know, so it's a wee place, very quiet. So I grew up basically there with my family, my older brother and my mum and dad. And my dad was a house painter for many years. He had his own painting company, where I eventually also kind of ended up with my brother. We both kind of worked for my dad when I left school because of we were both waiting for football things to happen. And so I left school and started going in there because I wanted to play football. I just kind of done that not because I wanted to, but because I needed to kind of earn some money a wee bit. So, but going back before that, you know, I was 5 years old when I started playing football and badminton at the same time, to be fair. And it was a strange one for me because when I was 5, the team I started playing with, they didn't have one in my year group. So I had to play with the boys that was a year to 2 years older than myself. And I've done that for about, what did I do? Almost 10 years where I played with these boys. And then I kind of made a decision I wanted to go back a year group to play with all my school friends and all that at the age of about 15. It was kind of then on, it kind of started for me to kick on. But I think that's because I was playing with these older boys for so many years that I was used to players that was faster, bigger, stronger. I was very small, but I was very fast. But that's why I could probably cope with it. But I think that's kind of put me aside and took it away from the kind of guys I was with playing style wise. So I was kind of in a level a wee bit ahead of all these guys that I came with and that I grew up with, all my pals and stuff. And I started to stand out because I could handle the ball better and I was fast and I could dribble and that. So that's when it all started to kind of happen. I get noticed a lot, and by clubs wanted me to. I think I got offers from Udinese and stuff like that at a young age to go with the academies just to live, and I felt it was too young for me, and I felt I wasn't ready. So I kind of took away, said no to that, and no thank you, and I wanted to stay home and develop, just play with my friends. And it wasn't until I was about 16, 17, I got also into the Danish national team youth. You know, I think there was under 17th national team I kind of started to get into a wee bit, under 18th. But I kept getting knocked back for under 15, 16's national team. I kept making it to the last kind of group before you to pick it, and then I got always took apart and never made it. And it was bugging the hell out of me because I felt it was good enough, but it kept picking the same players. They never took a chance on me in any way that way, and it just kept me hungry. And then I just kept pushing and striving. And a lot of these players that I played with then got picked over me never made it kind of really big, and that was quite interesting. You know, you look at it in that way of I felt like I'd overlooked, but I had to keep developing.
Maybe a bit
and
political?
Other people stood still.
Was that your early experience, maybe of just a bit of politics within sport that does exist?
I don't know if it was politics, but yeah, I think also the bit was I was still in my hometown, my boys' club at that point, and it was a small club. So, and there was these players from Brøndby and in Copenhagen area. It's like the bigger clubs who kept getting picked, ahead of me, and I felt that was a bit unfair at that point. But that was just because I was hungry for it and I was desperate to kind of make it in that way. And the only thing I cared about was football. But to be fair, at that time I was playing badminton and the same thing. I was playing badminton on a really high level. I won the Danish championship with the under.
Wow.
For about 3 years with the under from age 12 to 14, 15. Especially mixed doubles and doubles I was good at. And I had to kind of pick because they started to get really intense. I was literally going from badminton training to football training, literally driving from one to the other. In weekends, there was football matches, but I was also so I was going from badminton to the other. So yeah, but to be fair, see, in the weekends they would take me here, there, and everywhere to tournaments and stuff. But I was in my hometown. You could bike everywhere. So
right, okay.
I was literally biking myself to badminton and biking myself then from badminton to football. And then I was home. So I was away all day. Basically, my mum, they didn't see me until I came home for about 8 o'clock at night. Yeah, so I was basically with all my pals. We were literally biking from badminton to football, like 4 or 5 hours. Then home again. So we drive by one house, we drop one off to then to the next one, drop one off, and then on the way home. And it was great times, Also, you're out and about, and my mum didn't really see me until 8 o'clock at night. Coming home from school to one thing to another, and it kept me active. I was a very active boy, so it was very, very good. But that was kind of like how I kind of grew up in that way, where I kind of done these things, and I just kind of had to kind of pick, so at the end, football was my first, but I think it benefited me also doing another sport like badminton, for example, because my agility to get around the pitch, I was fast, so I was sharp in my footwork and stuff like that. Everything I think benefited me. But not only that, I loved playing basketball, so I was doing a lot of jumping because I literally played basketball all the time as well. So that helped me as well. I had a really good leap when I was playing football. So I think all these things benefit you as well. But like I said, it was getting really tough, and I had sometimes I went for badminton tournaments. I had to leave early, and sometimes I wanted to get knocked out in a badminton tournament because I know I had a football match in half an hour's time. So I had to kind of do these things it was just the way, you were as a young boy, and suddenly, and I also have to mention my brother. My brother was a big influence on me growing up in my football, and my dad. My dad was my coach, kind of thing, in my very young years. And not that he pushed me in any way. He just loved football, loved watching it, loved having us and coaching us, and he was us. But having a brother that's 6 years older than myself, it was had benefited me hugely. And I have to be honest, and I've just finished my pro license coaching, and on that license, I really realised when we went into the depth of mentality in football and stuff like that, and how big an influence my brother actually had in my career was huge. He, from a young age, I remember, going out every day in the back garden, basically competing against him. 6 years older, think about that right now. If I have a youth player at a youth system who's playing with people, somebody who's 6 years older than himself, it's a big challenge. And I had that at home every day competing, and still to this day, me and my brother are so competitive. You won't believe. We literally compete about.
Does he play a bit of badminton?
Yes, he was badminton as well, so we played all the time as well. We can compete about anything. It's the most stupidest things we start competing about, and it's just, we've always had a very competitive family. But like having him pushing me, without him knowing in that way, doing keepy uppies, and I wanted to beat him, and this and that. Think about 6 years older than me. That's a lot of task, for me. And physicality, we used to take each other out. Like sliding tackles and all that. I had to deal with all these things going up, and I think that's had a massive factor in me and my football, and have to deal with my brother in that way. And he was always looking after me, and even though he was taking me out now and again, but it was he was a big factor in how I've ended up with my football career. But then going on to when I was about 17, I got an opportunity. I kept getting asked for a lot of clubs at that point. Brøndby was in after me, and Lyngby, and there was a big clubs were kind of coming for me and asking me to go. But there was a club called AB, so AB Copenhagen, big academic ball club. they were very keen on me, but I knew they had an unbelievable youth team because we used to play with them with my boys club, and they battered us. I remember we lost 8-1 to them. I scored actually in that game, but we lost 8-1, and they had some unbelievable players. So I remembered that, and it all with the, like I said to you, with the 14s and 15s, 16s Danish national team. When I kept getting to these players, some of them were always there as well, so I can see some of them made the team as well, national team and that. So I knew they had a good youth, and they were very close to my hometown. So they were only like 10-minute drive on the motorway, so we were not that far.
Or you had to go the motorway? Was that?
I had to go. I had to drive.
Then?
Bike was out the window on that one. Couldn't really bike there, but it was very close, and I kind of went against a lot of the stuff that was in Denmark. We're talking about going to big clubs like FC Copenhagen and Brøndby and that at that point, and Brøndby was a big one at that point. But I thought, no, I want to go to AB, and they had scouted me a few times and came to me, and I wanted to go and play in that team. So that was when I kind of made the big decision at 17 to go there. And when you're looking back now, how quick that actually went from there to got Rangers was
probably got you more notice. Probably started. Obviously, it did changing things because you broke into the Danish, the 19s team. You even go on in 1998 to get the Danish under 19 Player of the Year.
Yeah.
So you went from not getting selected, made a little club move, probably around the right time in your teens, and that seemed to be it was time to go basically, and it's worked well.
Yeah, it was time to go. It was exactly the right time to go, and I picked the right moment, and I think I picked the right club because I went there, and I went into their league, and my home team boy club were in league. We won the League 2 in the youth. We won League 2, but these were in the Division 1 AB with Brøndby and all them, the top ones. And we went in and we won the league in my first year. I got top goal scorer in the league in my first year. With that 17s team, and we went to, when we won the league over there, to do it probably a lot different to do here and now, but we won the league, and then you go into a national, so it's called the Elite League. So the winner and the number 2 from our group, and because in Denmark you have three islands, so you got Sjælland with Copenhagen, so you got Danes in the middle, and then you got Jylland, it's the big ones connected to Germany. And you go into a elite, so their league teams from the other islands go into one big elite, so the best teams in the whole of Denmark of that year group. So we were going into that, but after I got top goal scorer and we won the first division, the first team manager took me up and gave me my debut at 18. When we were just before we were starting that tournament, the new elite league that we were favoured to go and win because we had battered everybody else and we were doing so well. And I scored in my debut at 18, and that was me. I never see the guy says the manager went and said to the manager, "You're not getting him back down." And they were raging because they didn't know.
They were in the elite. No, a chance to win that after you performed so well, and then you lose your main striker. So they would have been a bit gutted at that point.
Yeah, they were, and I remember talking, but they were so buzzing for me. All the guys were like so happy for me in that way. But then it was a difficult time a wee bit because I done really well, and they had to get me tied down to a contract. So I signed a new contract and first team contract. My brother had now also got a contract there, the first team, and was in there. So I had my brother again with me. And that helped, of course. So I was literally
where did he play? What position did your brother play?
He was a left winger, but then got moved sometimes into left back. No, but I was not, because in my youth, all through my years, I was a striker. I was playing up front, and that's what I've always been, a striker. It wasn't until I get to Rangers and they put me out on the left wing in a 4-4-2. But so I've always been a striker, and. So basically, I had my brother. So we were literally leaving. He had got his painting degree. At that point, I was starting my painting degree when I went to AB, and we literally went from painting in the mornings. We got me a bit of leeway from my dad because he owned the company, but so we painted in the morning and leaving to go for training afterwards. And so both of us had at that point signed a full contract, and we were both in the first team. And it was fantastic. It was a dream for me to now be in a first team professional football player. You got paid to do that, so I couldn't do the painting anymore. And my dad just went, that's fine. You don't need to do painting stuff. Just go and
You go
focus
for
on your
it, mate.
football. And
There's a
exactly.
contract there now. So Dad obviously realised that, my son's got what it takes now, and allow you to go on your merry way.
But my dad has done that basically through my whole career, even when I was younger than that, as in school. Because school, looking back, I was terrible. I didn't do my schoolwork like I should be, and that's one of my biggest regret now, looking back. I wish you could have told my younger self that, you need to stick into it and you need to focus on these things. But in my younger years, the only thing I cared about was hanging about with my friends and playing football. That was basically it. And my dad just never, when my mum was about, never really pushed me in any way. They always just protected me and just went, no, that's fine. Even when the teachers went, oh, but he's not doing this and that, and they were like, that's fine, he's going to do football anyway. And they were like, but you can't. My dad went, no, but he'll go in my painting company if it's not working out. So he was basically just letting me do what I need to do, and he always had my back in that way.
You would have went back and taken over the family business.
Yeah, probably, yeah, something like that, yeah. But again, you would have needed an education to do these things as well. But looking back, that's something that I've always regretted a wee bit. But
probably something now you pass on to your kids now.
Yes,
that you'll be very make sure that their academics are given the focus. Even
definitely.
I'm sure you want them to play sport, but I have to say I'm the same, Peter. I was in school, all I cared about was sport, and I didn't focus. And you get to the later years now, and you think, should have done that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm a little bit with my wife as well. We're both the same. We're a little bit focused and making sure the kids do the right thing in school, do the schoolwork. But they're very good. My two girls in school are doing a fantastic job. They're very focused and doing it. They're not like anything I was. So in that way, so I'm happy now. That's probably down to my wife. She's extremely good at making sure that they do what they need to do with school and all that.
Good.
But then going on from when I was about 18, got my debut and scored. It kind of all changed because I was this also in the media, started changing. I was this new thing. Like I said, I got player of the year. Yeah, I got player of the year. Got into the national team. I was doing really well with the national team as well. And I got a bad injury. A wee bit of cover. I got a ligament kept twisting my right ankle, and I kept pulling my ligaments. And after I'd done it about 3 or 4 times, they were so loose. My right one of the ligaments were not strong enough, and I had to get it strengthened up. So I had to get an operation. And I was about 19 at that point, and I got the operation, and then rehab started. But you have to understand, back then in Denmark, it wasn't like it is now when you have the physios and these people they had physios to help you kind of thing, but not like you have now. If you've not been had at Rangers, that it kind of helps you now. You have to kind of do a lot of things yourself. You can only guide you to tell you, okay, you do this and that, but it's up to you. They're not there working with you at times. It's up to yourself to kind of do that. So it was a hard period for me to try and do that after also all the hypes of doing so well as a youth talent, and then to suddenly have a setback like that was tough, and to try and get back into the team was difficult. Manager changed. It was really tough, and I suddenly got over that, and I got back into kind of playing ways again. I started feeling confident again in my ankle, and I was doing really well, and suddenly it happened so fast. There was 7 or 8 games to go in the league, and we had a cup game. I came into the cup game and I scored in a header, and there was about 5 games to go. I scored a hat-trick, and then my first hat-trick in the league, my first league goals, and it was 3 goals in that year. Then went on to play Brøndby, who was going for the title that year, and there was 2 games to go, and we were playing them at home, and they were fighting against Herfølge in the same year. They 2 teams were fighting. I don't know what, even points pretty much, and we played them at home, and I scored 2, and we won 2-0. And at that point, I found out afterwards there was about 11 clubs watching me in the stand, because at that point I had done so well for the under 21s national team, and done really well at that point. So I had created a wee bit of interest because of my hat trick and all that kind of thing. And then I hit it at the right time. Bit of luck, you know what I mean? You need that bit of luck sometimes in football. I can vouch for that. You know, it's,
Yep.
you know, I mean, imagine scoring against the title, the guy who goes, people who goes for the title, and I pretty much ended it for them there because they lost to us and the other team won it. Their game, going into the last game, they only needed to just see it out or whatever, and then they won the league. So Brumby didn't win the league that year because of that. But I ended up getting all these offers. Newcastle was coming in after me, Valencia and Inter Milan. There was big clubs coming in for me.
Wow.
They was all sitting watching me. And that's when Newcastle, very, very close to going to Newcastle. So I spoke to Shepherd, came across, the owner at that point, came across to speak to me and my dad. And we kind of agreed to go and see the stadium, go and see the place. And I remember the day before we were about to leave, my agent phones me and says, we need to fly to Glasgow first before we fly to Newcastle.
Good to hear.
And so I was like, okay, that's interesting. So we flew over to Glasgow and we went there and we took it for dinner, and suddenly I had a standing outside. I'll never forget this though. It was one of the biggest moments though. I was standing outside of a restaurant. We were about to go inside and I get handed the phone from my agent and he was like, somebody needs to speak to you. And I was like, okay. So I took the phone and I went hello, and it was Brian Laudrup. And I was like, you know, he was starstruck. Brian Laudrup and his brother Michael was some heroes of mine. You know, they were like unbelievable.
Favorite player for me as well, Brian Laudrup. Growing up, Brian Laudrup.
I know, but you know, hearing him begin starting to speak to me about the club and telling me about how good the place is to live and all these type of things just made me excited. And I was like, oh, this could be good. And then I ended up going to see the stadium and meeting David Murray, and basically there and then I kind of decided, nah, I'm signing here. So I ended up signing the Rangers, and I didn't go to Newcastle to see the place, and they were not happy at all. You know, it didn't go that well.
I'm surprised then, after you gave them the cold shoulder, that, you know, we'll go on and chat about that later, but you obviously go and have a stint for a good couple of years at Newcastle. So it's weird the way things just work out. But listen, all of I'm sure the Glasgow, the big club in Glasgow, Rangers, you know, I'm sure many were very happy that your plane deviated and went towards Glasgow instead. So what are you right now? You're 19, 20? What age were you?
20. Yeah, I was 20 years old when I signed for Rangers. So
20 years old. You're in a new city, Glasgow, vibrant city. You've also come into probably the biggest club rivalry in world football. Apart from maybe, you know, the only ones you could compare is maybe over in Argentina or something, some of the clubs over there. But Celtic and Rangers, you know, massive rivalry. As a youngster coming in, did you know much about that? Did you realise the extent of it at that point?
Funny enough, you know, a lot of people didn't really know that, but I've been a Rangers fan since Brian Laudrup got there. So because Brian was there, we were following. My dad actually and my mum used to fly to Glasgow a lot to actually go to games. They went and see Gaza and Brian Laudrup and stuff like that, games, and went up afterwards. They always went up in the Highlands and to the wee pubs up there.
You knew plenty about Glasgow Rangers then?
Yes, I knew a lot about Rangers. And my dad, this is the fun, but my dad always used to come home from these trips and he used to go into me and go, oh, you playing Rangers? No, you need to go Rangers. And I was like, no. It's just, I want to go and play in Barcelona. And, you know, and it was always my favourite Barcelona. So I was like, no, I'm going to go in Spain and this and that. And I ended up at actually a Rangers bit. A lot of people didn't know that. Me and my dad was actually Rangers fans, you know, kind of grew up because of Brian Laudrup. You know, you went there. So we followed the game. So I knew about it. But I didn't know the rivalry between Rangers and Celtic until you actually get there and you experience it. You know, you hear about it, but you don't really know about it until you actually experience it yourself. So that was a bit different.
You talk about, you know, you were talking about all your upbringing, and it sounds like it was a really good upbringing. It sounds like a class upbringing, but you were always challenging yourself. You were always up against older kids, and your brother 6 years older than you. So that was obviously setting you up nicely for the challenges you're coming ahead, because you've come to a tough place. You know, Scottish football, it's not, you know, you're going to get some thuds here and there. You've got to go to Motherwell away and places like that. You're going to have some tough days. So how did you settle in? How was the squad with you? I mean, you obviously came in with some big players. I mean, if I'm right in saying probably the likes of Amoruso would have been there, Klaus, Rickson, Newman, Van Bronckhorst, De Boer, all these guys. You were, you know, what were they like to come into a squad like that?
Yeah, they were unbelievable as a squad. First of all, I just want to say that my brother had just signed for St Johnstone 2 weeks before I signed for Rangers. So
Okay,
again, I had my brother only an hour drive from me up in Perth. So that was also huge for me that I'd be able to have my brother that I'm one of my best friends. Was growing up. It was having him so close helped me settle in a lot easier. When at the beginning I left training, just go up to my brother and his wife and kids and stuff. It was nice, but the squad I went into at that point at Rangers was incredible. Like you said, all the names you just said there, but like George Alberts and these people were just fantastic with me. Kanchelski's, he was so funny, and Marco Negri as well. And it was a great squad, and I was very pleased and very lucky to have been part of a squad like that. But it's funny enough, Fernando Riggs and me and him, we signed at the same time. Actually, Kenny Miller as well, and Fernando and me used to car share from the Moat House. At that point, it's called the Moat House. I think it's Crown Plaza now, but it was the Moat House next to the Clyde.
Yep,
We stayed there, and Fernando got a company car quite early. I was still waiting for mine, but so Fernando used to take me back and forward from training to the hotel until we got our houses sorted and stuff, out living places and stuff. So me and Fernando bonded quite well, and going back and forward, there he was so good to me in that way. But one of the biggest for me was Michael Moles and Arthur Newman, especially. They two were fantastic to help me settle in. They used to come and pick me up with Fernando because of the Dutch thing. Fernando, they used to come and pick Fernando up with it, and then they say, "No, you're coming out for dinner," and I was like, "No," because I felt they were big superstars, and I felt a young boy, 20 years old. I was like, no, I'm okay. And they were like, no, you're coming out, and get out of your room, and we always come up get you and stuff like that. And they
that's
took
what you
me
want.
out for
That's what you want
dinners
as
and
a youngster.
lunches.
You want to be encouraged. So maybe like you say, you were probably a bit starstruck when you first got there.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
it sounded like they made you sound like a great bunch, good family unit.
No, they were brilliant. They were excellent with that. They were so good in getting me involved. But also, to be fair, that was the youth team, because I signed for Rangers first team. But I was at that point in my first year, I was playing a lot of games for the Vessies at that point, the 21s, and I bonded a lot with a lot of their boys. There was a Peter McDonald who also went on to play for Dundee and St Johnstone especially, and done really well. He looked after me coming in, and these young boys was good for me. But for Nathan Newman and Michael Moles and Fernando and George Alberts and these type of players were just phenomenal to get me involved, because I was quite shy coming in, a wee bit like humble, in a way where I felt like I didn't want to intrude on these superstars kind of thing, but they just made me feel part of the first team and part of it all, and that helped me settle in so much better than I did before, especially for Arthur, because like I said, I get put out in the left wing in a 4-4-2. Even never played that position for in my life. I was a bit lost, and Arthur Newman, lucky enough, I had him behind me in my first couple of years, and he basically helped me so much, because I remember he always came up to me in my first game I started, and he said to me, he could see I was nervous. I was standing, and he'd come up and he was like, "You'll be all right, you'll be fine." He says, "One thing though, I don't want to see you anywhere near me. As soon as we get that ball, just get away from me and get up that pitch, and I'll sort all the defensive stuff." So it just helped me settle down, and he was such a help for me, talking me through the games. Move left, move right. I didn't even have to look back, and just hear him guide me through the position and stuff like that, and make me learn. And so it was a learning progress for me as well. I had to learn to play that position. I've never done it before, but it kind of worked out anyway, I think.
Well, the experience of the team that you came into there just sounds, it's brilliant to hear that they just all took you under their wing. You were obviously a bit of a golden boy coming in, young lad, big, but you came in with the right attitude as well. They probably warmed to you very quickly. But you went on after you settled in at Rangers. You went on to be part of a team that won 2 titles. But one of the moments that I think you must still pinch yourself is 2002 Scottish Cup final. You score a last-minute winner against Celtic. Wow.
Yeah, it's still to this day, I can still get goosebumps when I watch it. And it was actually beginning of this lockdown. They showed it again. They showed the whole game again on TV. I remember, and that was kind of the first time my 2 girls, they sat down with me and we sat and watched it all. Yeah, it was quite funny, because they've seen me when growing up through the years. They've seen me sign autographs, and people talk to me about that goal and other goals and stuff. But they'd never really seen what I've done, in that way, and to be able to sit and watch what I did there, and now understanding what that goal means to people here in Glasgow, it was quite special for me as well to sit with my kids and show them it. But yeah, that goal was, to be fair though, and to be honest, it's not when it happened. I knew it was big. I knew it was massive to score that goal when we won the league and won the title, the cup and that. But it's not until kind of afterwards what you see the reaction, when out after that, and years to come after, the stories you hear about how much it's meant to people and these things, that how you realise what you actually did that day. And that's what makes it special for me. I love to hear these stories from people to tell me that they were there with their dad or their brothers or whatever it was they were there with, and they meant so much to them. And some of them passed away, but there was the last thing they seen, and all that. These things are just incredible to be part of, and I'm just privileged.
They really add to the moment. But it's probably going to get talked about in 20, 30 years. Peter Lovenkrands' last minute goal. Things like that put you in the history books.
Yeah, no, yeah, but at the time you didn't know that. I was 22 years old and young boy, living dream, being famous football and playing well and scoring goals like that. I was winning cups, and you don't think about it that now. It's now when you're getting older and stuff, you realise what you actually did back then was just incredible. It was it's a feeling that you wish you can get back. Trust me, it's incredible, to relive a moment. That would have been one of the biggest moments to relive.
What Celtic games, and I've listened to insights from so many of the big players from both teams, but what is it like when you get into the tunnel and you're walking out to an Old Firm, whether it's at Ibrox or whether it's at Parkhead? What's the pressure like? What are you feeling? Is it adrenaline? Is it excitement?
Yeah, it's excitement. Yes, definitely. It's the adrenaline takes over, but I was always nervous. And no matter what game it was, Champions League or whatever, it's always nervous. But I think nerves are good. I think it's important you have nerves because it sets you up for it. I remember, it's quite funny actually. I remember before the cup final, we were sitting in the changing room about to go out to the game, and I couldn't stop yawning. Not because I hadn't slept in it, but I was yawning. But I'd done that when I was nervous.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was yawning a lot. So I remember Barry Ferguson came over to me. He was like, "What the hell are you doing? You sleeping last night? Or you're sitting yawning." I went, "I'm just nervous." He went, "Don't worry, he'll be absolutely fine." And he says, "Yeah, don't worry, just go enjoy it." And then after it's history now, but yeah, these things, I still got that. I still got nerves before every game and stuff. And I think that's good for you. I think it's good to have a wee bit of nerves sometimes.
Moving on, you didn't just have success in Scottish football when you were at Rangers. You had a really successful couple of times in the Champions League, but in particular towards the end of your time at Rangers, kind of 2005, 2006, you had Rangers made the last 16, and again you were part of a big moments because you scored in the victory. I think it was against Porto, and then you scored the goal that got the draw at Ibrox against Inter Milan, which then secured Rangers going into the final 16. Big moments again of your career.
Oh, yeah, scoring in the Champions League was always one of my biggest dreams. Like playing for the Danish national team, scoring in Champions League and playing in Champions League was one of my biggest things I was dreaming about as a young boy. And I actually ended up doing that. Both of them was fantastic. I'll never forget my first goal against Stuttgart in the Champions League. We won 2-1. Came off the bench at half time and scored 2-1, and we won 2-1. That was an incredible experience to score in the Champions League. You can actually see it in my face.
Was that Ibrox or
that's Ibrox? Yeah,
Ibrox.
We 1-0 down, and Christian Neerling, I scored to 1 each, and I scored to 2-1. But you can actually see my celebrations afterwards. It's this disbelief of scoring in the Champions League in the way I can see it in my face. But it's like it was just a dream to then go on to do it again against Porto and against Inter Milan. To go through was incredible. The Inter Milan one was, at that point, it was incredible because at that point I was getting a lot of stick in the press and even as fans as well. And I was going through a really tough time at that point at Rangers, and it was difficult to deal with. And that goal and a wee bit of relief that kind of went through me. I got to play up front, and I went through running from halfway line myself through with a goalie. Felt like I was running about 500 meters, not not about 60 or 50 meters where it was, but it felt like forever. But it was, to tuck it away and ended up drawing the game to go through was just incredible, you know, especially what I went through that kind of year. It'd been really tough for me mentally to deal with the stick I took at that point. To then go on and then I started going on this run from then on, scoring goals in the league, but then also scoring against Villarreal and in home and away in the last 16 was so special. You know, I mean, to be so close for us to actually go through to the quarters was gutting that we never made it, but it was a really proud moment of myself to be part of a good team performance, but also for myself to score in both home and away against a good team.
You touched there on, I think, a part of sport that maybe a lot of the people from the outside in that haven't played sport at a high level don't really understand sometimes, and that's, you know, growing up, I would have watched Peter Lovenkrands playing at Ibrox, you know, scoring goals, celebrating, you know, this guy's living the dream. But you talk about the challenges of going through times where people are questioning your place in the team. You know, they think you're not good enough to play in the Champions League. All these things that are playing in your mind, and you touched on the mental side of the game there. It's massively important, isn't it? The mental side of the game.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people, of course, always see the good money and playing and being famous football and scoring goals and all that. That's only one side of it. You know, they don't see the mental side of what you need to be able to deal with on a daily basis. Daily basis of meaning fans, opposite fans, media, who's, like you say, question yourself and question your abilities. You can believe in yourself so much, but when you hear people out there talking about you in a very, very negative way and basically telling you that you should leave the club and you're not good enough and all this and that, it's very, very tough. You know, in the sports world like that, you know, you don't really much get that probably any other job, even if you're doesn't matter what you are, you know, if you're sitting in an office working or you're a plumber working, you don't really get criticised in the media for if you don't put a pipe on the right way in that way. But as a football, if you take a bad touch or you pass a ball out the pitch, you get judged by 52,000 people in a stadium or in the media next day telling you you're terrible at your job and you're not good enough. It takes a mental toughness to be able to deal with that, and I struggled with that, to be honest. Really struggled with it the first time, because that was the first kind of negative thing I experienced in football at that point, because like I said to you, coming at 17 to AB, to go within 2 years to score my debut, to then go into to Rangers 2 years later, basically to then go on to score cup winning goals, scoring Champions League goal and all the rest of it, to then go on having a year where that was my first kind of bad year where it didn't really work for me. I didn't really have much confidence. It wasn't working well. To be able to deal with that, it was tough at a young age. You know, I was 25, 24 when that kind of started, 24, 25. And that was difficult. You know, it was hearing also supposedly club legends and speaking bad about you in the media and the radios, talking about how bad you were. That was not easy at all. Very tough to deal with. So mentally, like you said yourself, a lot of people probably don't think about it that way, but it takes a special person to be able to deal with that. And not a lot of people can, and they also depend on who you got around me. Lucky enough, I had my wife who's my wife now, and around me who was very good. And her family was fantastic with me as well, to help me as well, and my own family and friends supporting me and kept believing in me and telling me and they support me and all the rest of it. So, but not a lot of people has that support around them. So other people might struggle with it differently. But you can actually you hear it. So people don't really believe what I'm saying. You know, you can actually hear it, especially if you see when I scored a goal against Inter Milan. You actually hear the commentator Andy Walker when he's talking about my goal when I'm running back celebrating. He's actually saying in that the tough times that I'm going through at that point. He's mentioning it, the slagging I've been taking. But this is what I can do and stuff like that, and this is why it kind of changed. But they even realised, you know, I mean, how much slagging I took at that point. But it was, I don't know if I'm glad I'd done it. I'm glad I took it, because nobody would want that. But it made me stronger. It made me like a stronger person, mentality. I know I dealt with a lot of negativity a lot better than I did before, so it kind of helped me in the long run.
That's you know, I remember a period of time where you were getting a bit stinking in the media, And people, maybe there was stuff like coming out that, you know, maybe not strong enough. You've missed a few chances here and there. But my memory of you overall is that you always scored crucial goals for Rangers. Loved the pace that you had. You were always. It was always. I always felt when you were on the pitch, if you get a yard, there's a good chance you can score. And you obviously at Rangers had lots of playmakers and guys that could give you good service. But no, it's good to hear, because it's not all hunky jolly. It's not all just lifting the trophies and everything. You go through some tough times. It's glad to hear you had support of your family, strong, close knit bound there that helped you through that. You know, so that pretty much, you know, we could talk about your time at Rangers all day, but you've done other things in your career as well. Two other things that you ticked off the box. You represented Denmark at the 2002 FIFA World Cup, and you also played in the UEFA European Championships 2004. Must be special memories for you there.
Yeah, that was two of my proudest moments as well. To be, first of all, getting my debut at Danish national team was huge. You know, it's one of the biggest dreams as a footballer to represent your country like that. It was just fantastic. But to be able to go to a World Cup and actually get game time as well. I know it was only about 9 minutes I got, but I'll take it all day long. You know, I mean, to be able to play at the World Cup was fantastic. And the same with the Euros, to be able to go to the Euros in Portugal, and it's special times. It's hard to describe, because it's the bond that you have with the players, that you're in this camp for so long with these boys, and we had such a good friendship with the squad we had at both at Japan, but also at Portugal for the Euros. It was just so much fun, and I loved being national team. See, when you didn't get picked for a national team, was so gutting, because I absolutely loved being there, not only just playing for another country, but being there and going home and getting the home Danish food when you had home games. And you know, it was being in for a couple of weeks, you were together as a group playing cards and having a laugh. It was the best time to be, was when the national team was there, and that's something I always remember fondly, and I've been so proud of to be part of.
Denmark always do all right in the tournaments, but where did you get to in those two tournaments?
Both, even in Japan, you done really well. You were in group with Senegal, Uruguay, and France, with Thierry Henry and Trezeguet and all them, you know, and Sudan and stuff. You know, they were favourites in that point, and France get knocked out of our group without scoring a goal. Believe it or not, you look at the squad they have was incredible, and we beat them 2-0 in that game, and we went through the group stage. And we, unlucky for us, we got England in the next game after the group stage, and we lost 3-0, and that knocked us out. But that was really special. I mean, to be able to go through the group, we didn't expect that with the group we had. It was tough. Uruguay as well, but with Koba and Foylan and stuff they had, you know, they were a really strong team. Senegal at that point as well was doing really well, and we went through that group, and you know, we done really well. So, it was unlucky. England was on flames, and they were too good for us. But we did in Portugal and the Euros. We also went through the group stage. We got through that as well, and we ran into Czech Republic, and we lost to them as well in the next round afterwards. But we always seem to get through the group stages most of the time in any competition.
Why is that? Is it you know, the upbringing in Denmark of the style of football you must play? It must be well drilled, because to have that consistency when maybe you aren't always looked at on piece of paper as oh, you wouldn't have said before the France game Denmark are going to beat should beat France here. So the fact that you're able to do that, what's the secret?
Yeah, but I don't know what the secret is. You know, we can probably say it's the blood of the Danish Vikings and whatever, but I don't know. I don't know if it is, but it's I don't know. We always do well. To be fair though, when we look back at the squad we had when in the Japan World Cup was incredible. Like the team we had, the players that we had was, when you look on the paper, they were all playing in the top leagues all over the world at that point in Europe. You know, and it was so difficult. I couldn't get a game either, and it was so tough to get into. And years to come, you know, we always had good players, and all our Danish players always seem to be going out doing really well in other countries. And even now, you know, we have Kasper Schmeichel who's flying, and Christian Eriksen, and Simon Kjær at AC Milan, and you know, we have a strong spine through the team again. You know, like we've always had that. And I don't know what it is, but I think we're just really drilled and we're really good when it comes down to these big tough rounds in the Euros or the World Cup or whatever. We always seem to be pulling out the bag and do well.
You seem to hold your nerves on the big
Yeah.
on the big stage. And being Scottish, you know, unfortunately, too often we look like we might get there, and we just don't to get over the line just there to qualify for another tournament is brilliant for Scotland, because it's been, my last memory was France '98. That's the last time we've seen it. But Denmark are always
we're always there,
always qualifying as well and getting through the group stages. So I had to pick your brains there. I think it is the Danish Viking. With that. So you go on, you come back. Now your time at Rangers had come to an end now. You'd played a bit of football. You'd had a spell trialing at Middlesbrough, I think, but it didn't really work out. But you ended up around 2009, 2010. You had a short spell with Newcastle, but that was then extended, and you end up having, I think, three full seasons at Newcastle.
It's almost 3.5 years, because I came in the January window of when they went down, the year we went down with Newcastle. So so I played that from the January to the summer, and then I signed again for 3 years then till I left for Birmingham. Of course, I had a spell in Schalke after Rangers, when I went to Schalke for 2.5 years. It was a fantastic experience for me as well.
What was that like? It's a big change in the culture and everything as well.
Yeah, it was a big change, culture-wise, but also the league is fantastic, and it was an unbelievable experience, and also a very, very tough experience, because we should have won the league in my first year. We were like 12 points clear with 8 games to go, and we ended up losing it basically second last game of the season. It was so gutting to be able to actually have won the league in my first year. It would have been fantastic, and I had a really good season. But again, I ran into a bad injury. My ankle, the same ankle I had done in AB. I'd done it again, but there was the 2 other ligaments next to it that snapped. I had to get it redone. So I missed actually all the last 8 games. I missed 7 of them, and I'm going back for the last game of the season when we almost won it. But but not saying that it was because I was injured. We lost the lead of 12 points, but yeah, it was tough to sit and watch as the gap getting smaller and smaller. That was really difficult. But also my family, my wife was pregnant when we went across, and she actually gave birth to my oldest daughter over in Germany, and that was also special in that way. Tough for my wife because she didn't really speak much English, so I had to be the translator between doctors and my wife and stuff. It was not easy, but that was tough. It was a tough experience as well, because especially after my daughter was born, because I was never really home. In Germany, you're in a hotel a lot more than you are in Britain, I would say, especially in Glasgow anyway, where every home game, every away game, you're in a hotel and you're away. And we were in Champions League, we were in all the cups, and so I was barely home. We probably home two days a week. Where the rest I was in hotels and away playing and stuff. So it was tough for my wife to be on her own with the kids. So she was back in Glasgow a lot, and so I didn't really see them much. So it was also one of the big decisions why I left Schalke a half a year early, because I felt for my family reasons I needed to get back to Britain, kind of thing, because I didn't really see them, and it took a toll on me.
It's a bit easier when your wife can just go from Newcastle to it's not far to go to Glasgow to visit the family.
Yeah, definitely. But it's more with my oldest girl. It was tough for me to kind of keep the bond with her, because she didn't really get to see me much. So every time she had to put it down for bedtime, I couldn't put her down because she was used to my wife's long hair. She used to lie and play with her hair, but because I didn't, so she used to feel for it. I couldn't feel it, and she started crying.
I don't like this.
No, she started crying because she couldn't feel my wife. So it was tough to deal with, and that was one of the decisions why I left. But what an unbelievable experience to Schalke. Fantastic club, stadium was incredible, and to go in and be able to go to Newcastle after so many years, but I should have been there in 2000 probably, to go there in 2009 instead, and doing from then on, it's history now. But the bond I have, and I'll still till this day have with the Newcastle fans, is phenomenal, and something I always cherish. And it's just a fantastic time at Newcastle. One of my best times as a player as well was in Newcastle.
Big club. I mean, what was it like going into the Premiership? You're coming. I read somewhere that one of your goals for Newcastle, you scored into the great Edwin van der Sar. and it was like well over 1,000 minutes since he'd given up a goal, and you scored. You were the guy to score into him. You know, those kind of moments. You had a hat trick playing for Newcastle as well to against Plymouth in the FA Cup. You can see why you would have had, you know, special effect on the fans.
Yeah, I did really well, and it went really well for me in Newcastle, I think, as well. You know, like you say, I came in the January window and trying to really, not going down, not get relegated. We ended up going down anyway, by very, very bad luck in the end of the last game against Villa. We had a big deflection goal we lost on, but I had a fantastic kind of season there. You know, it's like you say, scoring against Edwin Van Sad to break the record, even though he would probably look back at himself and kick himself. He spilled the ball. He dropped the ball right in front of my feet, and I just went, "Thank you." Put the ball back in the net. It was a lucky goal in that way, but I'll take it all day long. And you know, it was fantastic. But I had a special bond with the fans there because of what happened with my dad as well. You know, we were in the championship and we were fighting with West Brom for the top of the table, and I've just scored my hat trick against Plymouth in the FA Cup. And my dad had had Alzheimer's for about 5 years at that point, and was taking it really bad. Really, he was deteriorating very, very quickly, and he was only 61 at that point. But he was. I remember flying back to see him after my hat trick because my mum phoned and said he's doing really bad at that point, and I went back to see him. My brother came across, and we went back to see him, and then I came back, and we had West Brom. Top of the class table, they were only like 2 or 3 points ahead of them, and we played them at St James's Park, and we went 2-1 down, and I scored to 2-1. My dad had just passed by then, by the way, just to say, I forgot to say that my dad had passed away 2 days before it, and to go back then. After the hat trick, I got a phone call from my mum saying, "You need to come back. He's not going to last much longer." And I said to her, "Right, I'll be back in the morning." That was like in late afternoon, so I couldn't fly home straight away. So I had to wait till next morning to the direct flight. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I went off the phone, booked the flights, and my mum phoned me back like an hour later after that to say that he's passed. So I never made it back to see him before. It always kind of haunted me a wee bit. Like I wish I could have been next to him, and also for my mum's sake, to have been there for her when it all happened. And after then flew back to see him one last time, and that was really, really tough. I've never experienced anything like that before, to deal with that. And you see your dad was one of my biggest idols growing up. Him and my brother has always been my closest friends in that way as well. It was tough to see say goodbye to such an important person in your life. Was tough, and I flew back, and my teammates didn't even notice, but they didn't know I was going to show up to the game 2 days later. Mm-hmm. So I showed up to the game against West Brom, and I walked into the change room, and I remember them just like looking, coming and giving me cuddles and asking if I was all right and stuff like that. And so that was fine. And Chris Hughton pulled me in the office before the game, before he was doing the team talk. He was about to do the team talk, where he came in and says, "Peter, come here," and pulled me in the office. And he went, "How are you?" And I went, "Yeah, as good as I can be." But he says, "If you want to play, you'll play." And I went, "No, I want to play." And he went, "Right, you play." And then he went into the team talk, said I was starting. Game started, and I didn't know this, but apparently when they said the team lineup before the game, the roar in the stadium was meant to be unbelievable when they said my name, because the fans didn't expect me to be there. I've heard about what's happened, and then seen I was there. And then when I scored, as you can probably see for the pictures of the game, that I was crying my eyes out. You know, I was bawling. I remember running back to the halfway line, and see when you're running back and they start saying to say goal scored in this minute by, and then they say my name. Yeah. The roar again that came at that point, I will never forget. You know, it was like I've never heard a roar that big in my life. You know, it was just unbelievable the way the fans just kind of got behind me in that way. And I've said in many interviews after, but I can never thank the fans, the Newcastle fans and the Toon Army enough for what they did for me that day. You know, it was, and I think from then on, we've always had a special bond between them and me. Appreciation between the two of us has always been so big because of that. But I remember after that roar came and I was standing and kicked off again, it was still 2 each. It was about 70 minutes to go, and I was running about, playing on the pitch. I was sprinting around, but I was still crying. I couldn't stop crying for about 10 minutes. the emotions just took over me in that way, and I was in my head, I was still chasing balls, I was running about doing everything you do, but my eyes were still running out of water. I couldn't stop crying, and I kept looking to shooting, thinking, right, you need to take me off, maybe I can't calm down here. And he left me on, and I remember after the game coming in, I said to him, "Because you probably should have took me off." I says, thought you would. I couldn't continue. He went, "Nah, I thought you were going to score again." So I said, "No, took me off." So I was like, "Okay, fair enough." But it ended up we drew two each, and from then on we kicked on, unbelievable. Like the team we were relentless, and we just winning every game. And that game, had we lost that game, and I think West Brom would have had probably upper hand on us in the confidence, and maybe started to take the gap away from us at the top, and we just rallied, and we were relentless, and we ended up winning the league quite comfortably in the end. We were just unbelievable, 102 points. It was quite a fantastic team effort, and what we did was special.
That's again, your mental strength, mate. You've mentioned throughout from the start of when we started chatting about how much of an influence your dad was. You worked with your dad's business. Your dad had an influence on your football. So it's really sad to hear. But it just shows you. You've been through it now. How quickly life can change, and appreciate people for all you have. But to show the character to come out and score and play that game. I think your father would be extremely proud of you. And I felt for you there, man. I felt my heart getting heavy when you were saying afterwards when you were running around, because obviously that moment, the roar, the goal, the emotions must have just all boiled over. But yeah, no, big respect, and I can see why you've got such a close bond with the Newcastle fans, and good, great to hear. You achieved all the heights then at Newcastle. You experienced lots of success there, just like you did at Rangers. You finished your career at Birmingham City, a couple of seasons there. What was that? Was that I read maybe was there some injuries involved during that period as well?
But I remember in my I had about 6, 7 months to go in Newcastle, and I ruptured my thigh muscle in my right leg with my contract out. 32 years old, and you think, right, okay, your career's over. You ruptured thigh muscle, and it took me for ages to get back from that as well. But I was determined. Actually, because I wanted to stay in Newcastle, I wanted to get a longer deal. But Newcastle, understandably, probably at that time, I took my injury, and I was 32. They probably couldn't take the risk on me or whatever. And I understood that, but it was tough. I wanted to stay because I loved Newcastle so much. I wanted to stay, but I fought so hard to get back. And I remember we finished 5th in the Premier League that year, unbelievable. We had that fantastic run as a club, and almost finished 4th in the Champions League spots, but we finished 5th in the end. And Pardew, because of my contract the way it was, that I could come back, even though I was coming out of my contract, you still get an extra month if you don't have a new club. That's the rules, is that even if you're out of contract, you still get an extra month. So I could do my pre-season with Newcastle still. So I fought so hard over my summer break. I worked so tough, so hard, to try and get myself fit for the pre-season in Newcastle. So I could kind of take it part as much as I could, so that I was fit enough and all that. So I did that, and I quite quickly. I've always been quite good at getting back from injuries. My ankle ones, I got back so fast after. I healed quite quick, apparently, for some reason, and I pushed myself, and I was ready to go. So I'd done pre-season Newcastle, and suddenly I got a call from Birmingham. I knew Newcastle I wasn't gonna stay there, but I'd just done my training there, so I'd done every single training, all my pre-season, and I joined Birmingham. But it took me a wee bit of time still with my leg. Even though I was doing all the stuff, it was tough, because I was getting probably a bit tired quickly with that leg than I was, because the muscle had took a bit of a damage, so it was not as strong as my left one. So it took me a wee bit of time, and small nickels. You get older, and I didn't probably look after myself in the beginning as much as as good as I should have, and I started doing that. But it was tough, it didn't really get on so well with Lee Clark at that point, and it was really difficult. It was a difficult period, probably one of the toughest periods towards the end of your career. You want to end on a high and stuff like that. But I had some great moments there, I had some great games where, there's good moments for me, because I played against some of the national team goalies that I've played with over the years. So Thomas Sørensen was Stoke at that point. Scored 2 goals against him in one
Nice.
game. We almost
In the
knocked him
bag,
out of the
bragging
cup.
rights.
Exactly. So it was like, but the same Kasper Schmeichel we played with Leicester, scored against him twice. It was to score against these boys was good for me. You know, it's funny though. Every time we played Danish goalies, I kept scoring against Danish goalies. It was funny, but it had some really good moments as well. Birmingham, fantastic games. Like that Stoke game again, as Thomas Sørensen was unbelievable. Like we were 3-1 down to 10 men. And he put me on the pitch. I was on the bench and put me on, and I scored two goals, and we came back to 3-3. I almost scored a fourth to go, but we went into extra time, and then we went into extra time, and then we lost in penalties. But I also scored my penalty, so I actually scored 3 against Thomas in that day. So I'll take that. But we got knocked out. I can't remember, but it was probably around 70. I would say 70 minutes. We were down to 10-9.
On the bench, thinking I don't know if I'll do much today to score in a hat trick.
Yeah. I know, basically. So it was a really good team, and I had some tough times with the manager there, and we didn't really see eye to eye, and it was difficult to deal with. And in the end, that's why I kind of decided to stop, because I could easily have kept playing. I wasn't because of the injury that I stopped playing. My body was fine. I could keep going. I got fully recovered from my thigh muscle, and I was fine. But I just lost the desire to play. I lost that wee bit of love of going to training. You know, from Newcastle, where every day going to training, I could not wait to get out of the house to go to training. I was literally buzzing to leave the house to go to training, because I had so much fun, and I loved going in a Newcastle training, to be in the club, and that, because the group we also had some fantastic friends there that I still have to this day, especially Stephen Taylor, we're very close with. We had so much fun, you know, in training, and we worked so hard together, and we worked so well together because we're always up against each other. But to go into Birmingham, where, like I said, I didn't have that. I lost that kind of wanted to go to training. It was like a grind and getting out. And I started to think to myself, I shouldn't be feeling that way. I shouldn't be doing this if I don't really want to. If I don't really want to go and do it, then I shouldn't. So that's kind of why I, in the end, decided to kind of retire and stop, because I could have probably kept playing had I got other offers that I was interested in. I could have kept playing, but I decided to go against it because of that.
Yeah. So 19th of November 2014, you decided to hang the boots up, but certainly didn't remove yourself from the game completely, because a couple of years later you returned back to Glasgow. You've got a Glaswegian accent now. I believe you're a good lady. Your wife is from Glasgow as well, and you came back to Rangers May 2017 as a part-time coach, but that led into you kind of running the reserve team. Must have been happy to get back to the club.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was quite funny the way it came around, because it was I was getting asked by the club to go and interview for the assistant job for Cassini, where Jonathan Johansson got that, and the club then kind of heard about that in the academy and wanted me to go in and speak to them in there. So I went in and spoke to them in there, and they said they could work with the 15s. It wasn't really something I was at that point interested in. I thought 15th, I was maybe too young. I didn't think I would be able to do it with the younger kids, because I thought my mindset would want to do stuff that they couldn't do. But they said, no, give it a chance, and I actually loved it. It was great. You know, I went in and I really enjoyed it. The top talented players in there, so to really work with these boys. But like you say, quite quickly I got moved from that up to kind of helping the 18s, and then quickly went by the 18s and went in and kind of helped with the reserves, and then ended up kind of running reserves as well. And you know, that was, and then also working with the first team, and then Gerard came in and started then doing a lot of the kind of leftover squads, like some of the players that was left out of the squad for match days. I took them for training. So I then made a training session with them on my own, you know, and took them separately from the reserves at times to look after them. So that was fantastic. I mean, I was really enjoying all that, and especially working closely with the first team now. Michael Beale was fantastic, and Gerard was unbelievable. I've learned so much from the way he organises stuff and the way he does his training. But Michael Beale has been fantastic to me as well, helping. So But then coming to this now where I kind of decided to leave because I had an opportunity to go and be a manager myself in Japan, and unlucky enough because of COVID that nobody could have foreseen at that point. COVID has put a spanner into that and postponed that, and
Were you just
it probably
about
doesn't look like it's going to happen now.
Were you just about to literally March of last year? Were you getting ready to head over there?
Yeah, it was basically done. It was all agreed, and I just needed to kind of sign. But because of the COVID, what they had to kind of wait some of the paperwork, and because it kept getting extended, saying, "Oh, we need to wait now. We need to wait till this time. We need to wait till every time we got to that bit, it kept just getting postponed."
Yeah.
And in the end up, it's just now been put on really for hold for now. So it's it's looked like it's probably out the window. So it's a bit gutting that it's affected so many people, this corona, in so many different ways. People losing jobs, but also people kind of get jobs. And same with me now. I couldn't start that job because of it.
Yeah.
And that's really tough. So I'm just need to kind of focus on a new plan now. Or I need to look at other things and see what's available to try and get into.
Well, listen, you've got bags and bags of experience. I'm sure many clubs could take you up in your services. Fingers crossed, things will ease. But I'm sure somebody will come knocking and want you in amongst it. So you mentioned Steven Gerrard there. Are you quite impressed with what you're seeing at Rangers just now in the last couple of years? You think, I mean, it's clearly going in the right direction this season now, but is that you've been probably part of seeing what's been put in place leading up to that?
Oh yeah, you could see it right away when he came in, the way he organised the place. His man, and also I'm on the pro license, so all the things I was learning on the pro license, I could see him doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I could see what he was doing. I made me understand a lot better the pro license stuff I was doing as well. And I'm now past my pro license. I got the pro license sorted, and I'm really happy with that. That's a big effort for me. Like I said to you, I wasn't good in school and I didn't do well in that. To go and do this also in a second language, to sit and write a 300-page book and do a presentation in a foreign language and stuff like that. People probably take it for granted that I speak the way I do, but it doesn't come not by hard work. I've worked hard on that, and I'm really, really proud that I've done this, that I've achieved the pro license, and not many people could sit and do in a second language a 300-page book, in that way. And so I'm really pleased with that. But like I said, I learned loads from Steven Gerrard to see the way he organises stuff and training daily. But like I said, Michael Beale, Gary McAllister, the way they operate and the way Steven Gerrard gets them to operate is quite extraordinary, and it's really, really cool to watch. And I learned loads from that, especially Michael. Michael was kind of close to me because it was him and me. There was kind of speaking between the reserve team, what players were going up and down, and also talking about sessions. And like I said, I was taking some of the players from the first team, so I was working very closely with Michael because of that. So I learned so much from him, and I still do. Still speak to this day. I still speak to him. So it's been fantastic, and I think what they're doing is, you could see it coming. The gap got smaller and smaller to Celtic from the start that he came in, and now they've, of course, proven that the way they're running the league at the moment.
So you're happy to go on record, Peter, and say that the Rangers have got this in the bag this season?
Like I said, I was always, since my experience at Schalke with 12 points clear with 8 games to go and losing it, it's always haunted me, and it's haunted me forever. I will never take it for granted, and I always say, that I'll never say it's never over until it's over. But I would say now, the way the league is going to now, I think it's in the bag. I don't think the Rangers going to slip up that much to lose the grip on this title this year.
Yeah, and the thing about Steven Gerrard, whenever he gets interviewed, he never makes big, bold statements. He just says, the job's done.
You can't.
We go to the next game. So I think they're in the right place. But I think it's good for Scottish football. I mean, it's been missed, the rivalry between, Rangers and Celtic. When Rangers were out of the league for a while and making their way back, it just didn't have the same. Okay, Celtic were winning, and good for them. They were getting to it, but it didn't have the same buzz not having the two of them there.
No, not at all. I remember it from, so when I was in Newcastle, sorry. I mean, all this was going on, and it could feel the difference. I remember going with some of my teammates in Newcastle. We used to travel up to the Old Firm games and watch them, and it was brilliant. And then when Rangers then wasn't in the top league anymore, nobody cared.
Yeah.
There was nobody cared down there. Like there was no talk about it anymore. Everybody always came in and seen what was going on in the Scottish League, what was Rangers and Celtic, who did they win or lose this weekend. You know, I mean, everybody looked for that after games and stuff like that. But after that was there, nobody cared about the Scottish football down there in England. I was in Birmingham and nobody talked about it. Nobody cared. Nobody seen what was going on. They didn't care about looking at Celtic won, whatever, because Rangers wasn't there. So the interest was gone.
Yep.
So I said Scottish football needed Rangers back to where they are now, in that way. And I think it's better for all Scottish football that we got this rivalry back. That has been waiting for so long. I think it's hugely important for the Scottish football.
No, it's I'm not going to. I'm a bit of a glory hunter in this one because I lost a bit of interest during those 3-4 years. A bit of a die-hard fan, I guess you could say, because you're meant to follow your team when they're in the struggles and when they're not. But it was just hard to get. You know, you're used to what I grew up watching. All the players that you mentioned that your mum and dad used to fly over and have a watch of: Gaza, Brian Laudrup, Michael Moles, all these guys. It was a hard period for the Rangers fans, but they showed the loyalty and they're back now, and it's good to see that they're on the verge of stopping 10 in a row. Couple of quick fire questions, not just to finish up with Peter.
Okay.
Best you played with at Rangers?
Oh, what a question! You said quick fire. It'd take me forever to think about this. No, like importance for me as well. You know, Arthur Newman was one of the most important and influential people for me at Rangers when it comes to on the pitch. Because if it had not been for him helping me out in the beginning, I probably would have been lost out in the position I've never played before in my life until I got to Rangers. So he was an unbelievable player. He was a fantastic player. But it's difficult just to pick one out, like for Arthur, because Arthur was special in his position. But you could look at players like Ronald de Boer and Barry Ferguson in midfield. You know, they were top class players. You know, and even Kanicha when he came in, one of my idols. You know, playing with Maradona. You know, it was like unbelievable playing with people like that. Avalanche up front, unbelievable. But Michael Moles, I would have to mention him because for two reasons. One reason was I'd never really seen him play before he got injured, his bad injury against Bayern Munich, but I'd seen him play after, and how good he was after. And everybody always said he would have been.
He was not the same. He wasn't.
That's what I'm saying. Like he wasn't the same as before it. You're scared to think about how good he actually was before that. And I'm ashamed that I didn't really get to see that. I've seen clips of him after now. But he's got the best turn in football. So Michael is definitely up there with one of the best I've played with as well. So it's difficult to just pick one of them out. But you know,
Michael Moles would be a good choice. I mean, I remember in that Bayern Munich game in particular, he was running rings round them up until that moment. He was a class above majority other players that played in
even
Scotland.
George Albert's. You know, George Albert was unbelievable as well. You know, it's just to pick one of them out. It's not fair really, because they also helped me so much. All of them, pitch, on the pitch, and off the pitch, and also backed it up and how good they were. So it's difficult.
I know that was a hard question because at that point Rangers was just star-studded. Okay, then I'll give you a next chance. Best at Newcastle you played with?
Oh. Yeah, okay. It's a bit easier for me in that way. We call players, you know, if I can bring three players into this in a certain way, but it's just because for me to play with Andy Carroll was so crucial because he made my game good because of
nodding it on for you.
To play with him, exactly. He was so good to play with because we understood each other so well. He knew me and he knew him. The same with Gutierrez. Jonas Gutierrez was one of the best players I've played with for me as a person. Like he understood me beyond anybody I've ever played with, except for my brother. Well, we talked before games what to do, and we went on the pitch and done it. It was just so good when it paid off. You know, he was just like, when I get the ball there, you do this, and that. And when I did, the ball came and I scored. The amount of assists, if you watch back my goals, the amount of assists comes from him. It's incredible. I think half of my goals from Newcastle come from him for his assists. It was Gutierrez was unreal, but I'll have to bring in Johan Cabaye was one of the best players I've played with, but the best I would say is probably Hampden Ben Arthur. When he wanted to be, he was the most unstoppable player I've ever played with. In that way, he could do whatever he wanted to do when he wanted to. But he was just so
Laid back.
in and out, crazy, laid back, like that way. Where when he was on his game, oh my God, what a player! Like unbelievable football. It was ridiculous. But yeah, so there's a couple of players that plays a big roles with me, and also Stephen Taylor because of his defensive. I had to work against an out and out proper English tough defender each day in training because he trained the way he played games. And me and him, we both done that, and we all up against each other every day in training. And it made me better because he was so tough, and I hated playing against him, and he hated playing against me in training. And it was so funny because you were best pals, but it was such a good competition for us in training. It was brilliant. It made us both of us better. So these players were just phenomenal to be part of, to be playing with. But I have to say, if we're looking at of who could be the best, like it will probably hadn't been after. He was just a joke.
The best you played against in Scotland and in England?
One of each.
One of each.
But if I say in Scotland, does it have to be in the Scottish League, or can I take it from Champions League football?
No, it's going. I'm narrowing it to Scotland, so you're probably going to have to name a Celtic player here.
Oh dear. I would probably say Henrik Larsson.
Easy. That's a good. It's a good class.
He was him, but also to be fair, as an honourable mention for Celtic, I think Henrik Larsson was different class, unbelievable player. I thought Stylian Petrov and Lubo Maracek.
Lubo Maracek, I was going to say
he was so for me underrated in that way. He never really got, but I thought anyway, the acknowledgement that he was a fantastic footballer. I thought he was really, really good. Day 3 was probably the best, I would say. And England, it can probably only be Cristiano Ronaldo and Man United. He was, to be fair, it probably left then when I think back. He probably had left. Right, okay. That was with probably Champions League Rangers. He was there when I played him. Probably one of my, I would say, probably Aguero from Man City. And I was lucky enough to actually get his jumper after one of the games because he was good pals with Jonas Gutierrez because Argentina, they played together.
Right, okay.
And I was begging Jonas for about 2 weeks up to the game. I knew the game was coming, and I kept saying to him, Jonas, just get me his top. The only thing I care about is just getting his top. And he got me the top after the game. I was buzzing. But he was special. But how can I mean? There's so many. I played against Steven Gerrard. I played against Frank Lampard. Played against Rio Ferdinand. Closely played against him. Wayne Rooney. How can you not play against them as well? But they were all unbelievable. Paul Scholes, probably one of the best for me in midfield as well. They're like unbelievable. But I named a lot of Man United players there. Just think of it. But no, even Carragher played up against him. What a player he was, Jamie Carragher. Like I can remember, I never really managed. He marked me out the game. I remember at Anfield. Unfortunately, he was so good. But yeah, Aguero was one of my heroes. I played against him actually with Schalke, but he was at Atletico Madrid, and oh my God, that performance! It was him and Forlan for Atletico Madrid up front, and honestly, they ripped us to shreds.
Not a bad strike force.
Oh, we lost 3-0 at Atletico. They were so good. They too were unbelievable. And I remember from then on, I loved Aguero, and then played with him against him when he was at Man City with Newcastle was just special. He was just phenomenal. But yeah, there were so many. Like I said, Rooney was probably one of them up there. That would probably be the best as well. So it's difficult to pick one of them.
When I ask about the Premiership, there's so many great players. What's your highlight of your career? What's the one moment in your career that you look back on and you say, that's one of my highlights. That's the moment.
See, when you say that, it's probably the toughest question you can ever see, because as a young boy growing up, 5 years old, what I dreamt about was playing for Danish national team, playing the Champions League, and being a famous footballer where people wanted photographs of me. That was the things, and I achieved all of that, all of it. And you know, so looking back, I say like proudest moments. The first time I stood and listened to the Danish national anthem for the A team, not the so much, you also the youth, but at the A team, the top team, in a starting lineup, was the feeling was just to sing your national anthem, stand there and sing it, and then it was so special, and the exact same feeling I had the first time I stood and heard the Champions League anthem at Ibrox. When you stood there and you listened to that song, and it's just they two moments are just incredible, and it's so difficult to pick one of them because it's both of them I dreamt about since I was a young boy. But looking back now, because of where I'm sitting and what I went through, the best moment for me now would probably be when I scored the goal 2 days after my dad passed away against West Brom.
Your career is such a moment.
Yeah, because the moment people, unless you go kind of through that kind of thing, but also to be able to experience the love from people in the stadium afterwards and my teammates and that, but to be able to pay my dad back in that way of what I know he would have wanted to. I couldn't have done any better than what I did. Basically scoring that goal and blowing him a kiss up to him and stuff like that in that way where, you know, it's something that I'm so happy that I managed to do, and I managed to do it for him in that way, and that's probably one of my proudest moments for that reason, because of that. So that will probably overtake the two others, but the two other ones are just as not just as, but they're so important because that's what I dreamt about since I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
So to be able to go and do it was special. But I'll probably say my dad, because he still to this day now also still means so much to me. Also the way I am as a person, you know, the way I am with my kids, the way he was with me and my brother. It's something that I've always tried to do the same with and trying to be like. And yeah, that was the best moment I could kind of try and pay him back, and I thought I did. So that'll probably be it.
That's the one. Listen, it's been a pleasure. You've given a real good insight into your career, your life, your ups and downs. Fascinating to listen to. You've done it all in the game. You've got to achieve all your dreams, and I wish you all the best now in your next chapter. Like I said, I'm sure there'll be doors that open up for you in the coaching world. And you know, difficult times, but let's hope this all passes and we all get back to normality. But I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No, thank you so much for having me on. It's been great. I actually never really done so much of an interview like this where we would talk about my background like that and be able to go into depth of it. It's been actually really enjoyable. So it's made me think about all that. I know I miss my brother now a lot now. I didn't talk about it. I really appreciate it. It was great. And maybe we can do this again about my coaching, hopefully career sometime. It could be good.
Listen, 100%, mate, 100%.
Other than the years when that's hopefully took off.
Yeah, no, and I think that you're a young man in that game, and plenty of time for you to make inroads. But I'm sure you just look at your background you've got, and now that you've got the licenses and everything in place, I think you're well on right track. It just happens to be that things are a wee bit strange right now, and traveling and going to these things that one slipped through. But like I said, other one door closes, another door opens. It's already happened in your playing career. You were on a plane to Newcastle and it turned to, you know, it just wasn't right. It wasn't the right time. It was to go to Newcastle. You were saving that for later in your career.
Yeah, you're right. No, it's a good saying.
So look at it
like
everything happens for a reason, mate. Everything happens for a reason. Yeah. You weren't meant to go to Japan right now, and there'll be something else that happens. But thanks again, Peter.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.